So last week I was on a bit of a short trip back to Bulgaria together with two of my friends because we wanted to have a nice little inspirational artist getaway. So we did. And we had few options and ended up deciding to go to Bulgaria because it's really cheap and the weather is great, particularly right now. We arrived in Sofia in the evening and we didn't do anything. We just went to find our Airbnb. We had a short walk around. The next day, unfortunately, I had a horrible headache, so I didn't feel much. In the evening, we got a bus to Plovdiv, where I'm actually from, and we stayed there for 3 days. The Airbnb was really beautiful with a great view towards the hills. I stayed at home with my parents, of course. On the next day, I took them to the old town because that's probably the best part of the city, or at least it's my favorite. I've always loved history and old things and old places and ruins and such, and you get a lot of these at the old town. It was nice and sunny and beautiful, and there were flowers everywhere. It really felt very summery. I miss it already. The streets at the old town are really tiny and really cute and really inspiring, but we didn't get the time to sit and draw even though I really wanted, but I will probably make some sketches from the photos I took. I love the architecture in the old town. And of course, one of the places I took them was to this house, which is probably one of the most emblematic for the old town, and it's also the ethnographic museum. After I took them to the top of one of the hills that the old town is on. I forget the name, I always forget their names. But here you can see a lot of remains from the Roman period of the city, or actually I think it was from the time of Philip of Macedon. I don't really remember anymore because there are tons of layers of history in this city. But the view from out here is amazing. You can see some of the other hills. We sat at a restaurant that's up there, had a nice meal, and was visited by this really persistent cat. By the way, the city is full of cats, and they're just all the cutest. After that, we continued walking around, discovered some nice little streets that I don't think I've been before. I'm sure there's still places there that I haven't been before. Discovered a house that I didn't know of that was a museum, but it was closing, so we didn't really get to see it from the inside. We also walked over to the other side, where one of the biggest tourist landmarks are, and that's the Roman Theatre. There's also a great view from up there, and it's a fully functional theater. There's open-air cinema, there is theater performances, ballet performances. Back in the summer, I was there for a performance of Swan Lake, and it was pretty nice. In the evening, we walked around at this small and nice neighborhood called Kapana, or the Trap. It's a really nice neighborhood with a lot of beautiful graffiti and street art, and a lot of nice tiny cafes and small artsy, craftsy stores. Even though it felt very nice and warm, it's still autumn and it gets dark fairly early, around 6 or 7. So that was the end of that day. On the next day, we were on our way to the train station for a little out-of-town trip, but on the way there we crossed the main walking street. We had a look at the old Roman stadium. You can only visit the small corner, and above it you can see this old mosque, which is also very emblematic for the city. Further down we saw the remains of the old forum from the Roman times of the city, and after that, we made our way to a small nearby town called Asenovgrad. So a little outside of the small town, there is the remains of an old fortress that I like visiting once in a while because it's a very easy and pleasant hike from my hometown. So it's probably the quickest and easiest way to have a bit of nature hike, out of town experience, and not have to go very far or have to get a car or whatever. So that's what we did. And on the way there, we had a picnic lunch by the river. It was just really nice. We walked by these swings that I always like to stop at and swing because I love swings and they were really comfortable. Later on, the path goes through this rope bridge that feels a little bit scary to cross, but it's not that bad at all. And after that, you get to a shortcut, and it's about a 50 minutes really steep walk up, but that's the hardest part of the hike, and it's not that long. And when you get on top, a really beautiful view towards the fortress. And we finally got there. Most of the fortress is ruined. There's only foundations from the walls, and the only part that's still standing is the small chapel, but I still really like this place. After we looked around, we had to go back really quickly because we wanted to catch the next train, because we still had a long list of things we wanted to do in the city, so we had to rush back down. Wish we could have stayed longer in nature because that's something I really miss. When we got back to my hometown, we went to the artsy district again because it's one of the nicest places to be. We looked again at some shops and walked around, and then we went back to the Airbnb where we had some white wine on the roof terrace and watched the sunset, which was really nice. And then we went back out for dinner. We found a nice little cafe and the food was great. After dinner we had some drinks and I had to go home, and on the next day we took a bus back to Sofia where we took a plane back to Copenhagen where it was cold and gloomy and very foggy. Hope you enjoyed coming with us on our little trip back to summer, kind of. I can't wait for it to be summer again. I don't like winter at all. I don't like anything about it. If I could, I would go to sleep right now and wake up in May, and I won't feel like I missed anything. But unfortunately, we can't do that, so we'll have to stick it out. And hopefully, we'll have some nice and cozy and inspiring times going through winter. And I'll see you next time. And until then, stay warm and have fun.